Everton are in a slightly difficult position. I think that with the 260 million worth of losses that they've posted for the 3-year period up to 20, I think there's about 160 odd million worth of allowable adjustments for COVID restrictions that are right backs, for infrastructure developments, will bring them just under the 105 million up until the 1920 season. The next year's accounts are due to be filed now, and you're right, they are likely to be another 100 million worth of losses. These are operating losses, so there'll be allowable adjustments. There'll be some COVID interjections for the season that's just gone, but they still will be above the 100. It's very difficult to see how they're not going to be above the 105 million. Now, where that falls into the territory of sanctioning, no Premier League club has ever been sanctioned in that way before. I think it's going to be very difficult for the Premier League not to sanction Everton, but I very much doubt they're sanctioned this season. I think with the processes that will involve, that Everton will submit their accounts, then they will be looked at by the Premier League, who will immediately turn towards sanctioning. Everton will appeal it. It'll go back into the long grass, and you'll have a situation, if Everton were to be surviving in the Premier League this year and then relegated by a points deduction, that the Premier League would fall into the territory of the EFL had to do last year, which has put together a fixture list that included Derby for one set of fixtures and Reading for another set of fixtures, and Wickham for another set of fixtures, being relegated as a result of their behaviour. Right. So I think it's a very difficult argument to suggest that Everton aren't going to get sanctioned at some point. If you want me to put money on it, I would be amazed they get sanctioned this season. I think if they're going to get sanctioned, which is difficult to see how they don't, then they're going to be sanctioned at the beginning of the 22-23 season if they're in the Premier League.
There's other things coming into play with Everton now at the moment as well. Reports that they could be breaching top flight profit and sustainability rules. Could you just give us a little summary of that?
Yeah, I mean, the finance. It's the story written by Matt Hughes this morning. The financial results over the last couple of years have been awful. The one December 2020, they lost 139.9 million, which was a club record. There's going to be another loss this year. We're still waiting for the financial results to be published. Found out yesterday that the club don't have, well, some of the players that I know don't have relegation clauses in their contract that would see mandatory 20% pay cuts if they were to go down. So if you could imagine if the worst does happen, and you know, God forbid it does, if they're down paying huge wages in the Championship, it's gonna have a huge effect on them. But you know, fingers crossed it doesn't get to that situation. But I mean, it's a situation like I've never seen with a football club up here. It's they're in real trouble.